Alright, so for the past 11 or so days, I have been playing through Exodus, and it is a pretty fun time overall. I will say the mod almost entirely is vanilla in terms of how everything feels and how everything interacts. A couple of noticeable changes are the fact that in normal and TVHM, raid bosses seem to have drastically reduced health, so that you can farm them out a little bit easier. You can get raid items from UVHM Sarah vendors still. Slag is no longer as needed, as it only applies a slow and a 25% damage debuff to enemies, so that they take like 25% more damage. And then hitting an enemy with shock or getting hit with shock will force them to fire whatever they're holding, freeze in place for a second, and then go back to whatever they were doing. The overall skill trees are vanilla. There's only a couple changes overall, which I do have over here. So for playing Zero, Zero has an increased movement speed and jump height. He moves faster in the air, he has faster climbing, swap speed, he can aim faster. He also has a slightly increased melee damage, but he takes more damage overall. Salvador is a little bit beefier of a boy. He moves a little bit slower and jumps a little bit less high because he is shorter in this mod. Axton is an explosive character, so he gets increased resistance to explosive damage. In addition, he also is slightly tankier. Maya has a resistance to slag alongside being a little more thick. Gage is a higher shock damage, shock resistance character, so just basically minor changes there. And then Krieg is thicker, resists fire more, and does more melee damage. And he just moves a little slower and jumps a little less high. So overall, the changes are not too big. You really don't notice them while you're playing, but they are there, so that is a thing of note. As for actual skill changes, there are only like 3. The base damage of turret is slightly increased for Axton. Laser sight now also gives an increase to turret damage alongside the accuracy it provides in vanilla. And then for Maya, Cloud Kill has been nerfed so that it takes 20 seconds to cool down so that you can use it again. This sort of just feels awkward in gameplay because you typically end up just kind of waiting around for Cloud Kill to be back again, or just not being able to heal effectively as a Maya player, which I would probably just, help out by just using a grenade and holding a ruby. But basically stuff like that. It feels a little bit awkward, but it is what it is, I guess. A lot of the weapons in the mod have retextures so that they look a little cleaner, a little nicer to look at. Such as, for example, this Bata is a little more pale looking, honestly, is kind of the biggest change with it. We've got the Pimpernel is completely unchanged, so there is a good mix there. A couple of items are different, the Storm, for example. And then a lot of the non-uniques are also changed a little bit too. If I head over to a vendor really quick, there are just really nice looking skins in this mod. A lot of it just looks good. It's very enjoyable to look at. Like this doll railer right here, that skin just looks nice. It's a really nice looking skin. A lot of it is just cool skins. Now, as for the overall bigger change is the fact that there are copious amounts of items in this mod that you can farm. So while the gameplay itself is vanilla, this is sort of just an extra thing to farm. If you are a type of person where you played the game a lot, you're kind of tired of farming out the same 5 items, you want to go get new stuff. Well, there is plenty of stuff to farm. Once again, like I said, it didn't really line up with how I play the game because I do like to just run to the end of the game and then play at OP10 usually. So for me, a lot of these were sort of out of the way. They're not really attached to any of the normal farms that you would normally do, usually, at least if you're a person who just runs forward a lot. So I didn't get to see a lot of the items, but there are a lot of items. So yeah, basically, if you want a mod that pretty much keeps the characters vanilla for the most part, a little more DR, a little less movement speed, a little more movement speed, a little less DR, and then just like 2 or 3 skill changes, and you just want a bunch more items to play with, I would definitely recommend Exodus. They also have a bunch of non-unique items as well. The Spectre comm here is a really cool comm. There's a lot of Allegiance comms that are out there, so there is almost a class mod for every single weapon manufacturer to make it more supportive of the Allegiance idea. You have incredibly changed aggression relics. So this is damage, reload speed, and fire rate on a green rarity. We have a bunch of custom relics here. There's just a lot of nice things, agility relics, stuff like that. So just a lot of vanilla plus style items, a lot of stuff to look out for. Minor tweaks to your gameplay, major tweaks if you decide to go get those custom items, and that's pretty much it. I would describe it as being vanilla plus. You just go get stuff if you want to get stuff. You don't have to get stuff if you don't want to get stuff. You don't have to use slag as much since it's a smaller debuff and enemies are generally weaker to make up for that fact. It's just kind of nice. So yeah, give it a try. Exodus.